Welcome to the Reclaim Leader podcast. I'm Jason Tucker.
And I'm Jesse Skiffington.
We're two pastors in the trenches who are passionate about church health for greater gospel impact.
We share the ups and downs of ministry, strategies that worked for us,
and some that didn't.
Best practices and practical tools for church leadership.
The goal, to help all of our churches flourish. Let's get started.
See another sunrise, sing a little song.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reclaim Leader. It is so good to be with you again as we are talking about church health, Jesse, church health. And if you watch us on YouTube, which by the way, why aren't you? We're so engaging. You can see we both decided on flannel, and it's the same shirts we had for the last episode, which it's how we do it. We recorded these on the same day. So
batch recording is a real thing that we do. Yeah.
It's a real thing. It's the only way we can make it work. So,
yeah, sure.
But anyway, Jesse, I really like, so the first, part of the conversation all about why are some churches growing? What do we learn from them? And it's not just that they're so much better at preaching and so much better at reaching and all of that. Mm-hmm. There certainly are things that those churches are doing that we can learn from. But on the other hand, it's largely because, according to Ryan Burge and his information that he, his stats and stuff that he kind of scrapes through, it's churches that are largely multi-site in growing areas of the country. So no wonder, they're teed up for growth.
Yeah. And good that they're meeting that need and being there and being faithful in that. And we should want that. We want healthy churches to grow and to meet a growing population. So there's nothing bad about that. We're also saying, hey, that maybe creates some awareness where you are about, hey, well, if I don't have a population explosion around me, what is a reasonable expectation about what healthiness looks like for our congregation and our community? And so I think it just kind of repositions things a little bit and gets us out of that comparison trap that sometimes we can fall into.
Yeah. I was just a couple of weeks ago participating in an installation service for a local pastor. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was said was just a great reminder. It was like, remember, they're not Jesus to the congregation. It's like, because congregations have these super high expectations. Okay, this pastor's going to come in and we're going to get rolling and we're going to be bigger and better than ever, and it's always the bigger, which gets emphasized, and why that's a mistake. And it can actually send you off in the wrong direction if that's the end game. So helping us understand, what does it look like to grow healthier? We're going to talk about it today. What's it actually look like? Mm-hmm. How do you do it? Last week we started with you got to have a process. Mm-hmm. If you can get your church on a good process, then health has a shot. Because if you can get your church thinking and praying and deciding in the same direction, God's direction, then your church is going to be transformed spiritually, which leads to a healthy church. That's what we all want.
That's right. Yeah, I love it. And remind us again, we talked a little bit about your process, and you said there's a number of them out there, but yours focuses around 4 Ds. So just to give people a sense of what do you mean when you say process? Why don't you share that with us again, just in case?
Yeah. So the 4 Ds: discover, discern, decide, deploy. Mm-hmm. So discover, that's the phase where you just sort of look at what's going on in the church and you ask the question, who are we? Mm-hmm. Not who were we, which is always the temptation.
That's a more favorite question for some people.
It is. But who are we now? Who are we currently reaching? What are we doing well? Mm-hmm. Where and then what are we doing not so well? Where are the gaps? Where are the holes? What's going on with us as a church? Then it's okay. Well, who are we trying to reach? Mm-hmm. That's all part of the discover phase. Who are we trying to reach? Then we get to the discern phase. Okay. Well, how are we going to close the gap? How are we going to close the gap between who we are and who we're trying to reach? What are some things that we are going to try? And that's like the brainstorm phase.
Yeah.
Then you get to the decide phase, which is we're going to decide these are the 3 to 5 things we're going to work on over the next 18 months. And you build all along the way. There's a whole process where you're kind of building consensus and you're putting a few teams together. And you're deciding what are our key areas that we think are going to help move the needle on what God wants, not what we want, but what God wants for this church. And then it's deploy. Then it's putting together a good and reasonable, hopeful plan
Yeah.
of execution.
Yeah.
But it's really like if you do any version of that,
Yeah.
you're going to do well as a church and as church leadership.
Yeah. And I imagine as you're working with churches and certainly as we're talking to folks, sometimes there's a breakdown in one of those areas where we either run out of steam or get derailed in some way. But working a process like that is going to generate a kind of a new way of thinking and being. And it kind of tills up the soil, so to speak, to give us a new way forward as the Lord leads us. So having something of a process is crucially important. And there's also a way of thinking that I think was where we want to talk today. And so tell us about what sort of our mentality related to building versus growing, and how do we come to that question?
Yeah, I think the key to renewal is not to worry about growing. And I know that's easier said than done, because for some churches, that's all you care about. Like literally you're looking out at the pews, you're just like, we just need more people. We need more critical mass. I know that the temptation's to think that way. But what if you didn't worry about growing and you just worried about building? What do I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How do we build this church into the kind of church that is healthy,
Mm-hmm.
that has a flourishing relationship with God, that does corporately what hopefully we're doing individually, and that is being transformed by Christ?
Mm-hmm.
What would communal sanctification look like? That's what's going to create everything. That's the engine that's going to, and so even if you don't have some sort of huge growth, you have huge spiritual growth in your church, and that changes everything. Now it's not just inviting people, you have something to really invite them to.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's the key thing. If you focus in on not who you don't have and kind of get fixated on how to grab some of those people, that instead of focusing on becoming healthy first, getting your people healthy and getting your congregation healthy so that when people show up, they can have a chance to be transformed and be discipled and all those things. I think that's the right order to get it in. It's not wrong to hope for and even expect some healthy growth to come, but first things first, right? And I remember when it was a number of years ago now, but we were thinking about what are some of the kinds of things that we would be excited about. And if we're excited about those things happening in our own lives and in our church community, then that excitement is going to spill out into our community, and we're going to be more likely to want to invite someone, or more likely to want to encourage others to be a part of it. And so this is before the pandemic, but we said we want to be a contagious community. And then pandemic happened, and then all of a sudden contagious community wasn't a super great tagline anymore for our
You had to take down the banner that said contagion.
Yeah, we had to scrub contagious off of all of our stuff. Truly, it was everywhere. And it was like, wow. But that's kind of the idea, right? If you build something that becomes this life-giving thing for you and your people, and you have this life with God that's rich and people are being transformed and growing in faith, that's going to be something that is going to be contagious in a good way. And maybe some growth, numerical growth or other kinds of things will come as an outcome of building, rather than just focusing on what can we do to grab people.
Yeah. And so today I want to kind of break this down into very practical things. One is I want to address sort of two things. I want to address what a lot of churches what I hear from pastors right now is, hey, I'm trying to get young families to come to church, but we don't really have any in our Sunday school.
Yeah.
How do we do that? It's a chicken and egg thing. I mean, how do we... I can invite them, but I got nothing to invite them to, right? So we're going to just talk about some practical things to address that. And then secondly, we're going to talk about the opportunity of building through Christmas, those kind of opportunities. And then we're going to take a quick look at some other indicators of flourishing churches that I think might help you think about how do we reframe the conversation to talk about a healthy, flourishing church rather than a numerically growing church.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Spot on. I love it. Let's do it.
All right, cool. So This is the most asked question I get from a smaller church, and I have been the pastor of a smaller church with this problem, and that is this: I don't know what to do first. I'm trying to get young families, but I don't have much of a Sunday school program. And this is a really great question, and the answer isn't fun, but it's very doable. The answer is you got to do both at the same time. You have to build the airplane in the air, but you can do it. But it doesn't have to be, you're not going to go from 0 to 100 instantly. It can go slow and it can go in steps. Here's an example. So let's say, okay, we want to invite some young families. Let's just worry first about just getting in their orbit. How do we get in their orbit? Well, we have some folks who in our congregation, they have grandkids in youth sports. They have, kids, nephews on the soccer team. They are, whatever. They have some connections. So how do we start getting in their orbit? Well, what are some things we could do to be of service to the kids on the soccer field? Maybe we show up and we have free waters. I don't know. Or how do we reach out to our connections to start asking parents, what do you need? What would be helpful for you? What would just get in their orbit? Just show that you care about them. And honestly, sometimes that everything else goes way faster after that happens. It's just, we got to get ourselves in the path so that they intersect with the church in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really good. And it's rooted in relationship, right? When we know people and know what their needs are or whatever, that is hugely helpful. But also when that young family knows you or your church or someone in your church and they like them or trust them or they see kindness and love in them, then they're more likely to kind of overlook some other things that maybe are not so attractive about your church, right? Because they care about you and they know you care about them. So relational ministry, I think, is one of the unique things that smaller churches, all churches, but particularly smaller churches, have to offer. If you reach out to a young family and you get to know them, and then they eventually do show up in your congregation at some point, they're going to see you and they're not going to be hidden. It's going to be clear. So I think that relational connection of going to where they are, offering something, asking about what their needs are, I think that's spot on, Jason.
So how else do you get them in your orbit? Well, maybe you can host an event. Yeah. And I know a lot of people do. Remember our friend Ian? He does the pumpkin patch at Pluckman Presbyterian, and that's always a big success. Yeah. And most of you have events that do this, that get young families into your orbit. You do a trunk or treat, or you do a Christmas event. So get them to orbit. But then the second step, this is really important. Yeah. And actually, I think Carrie Newhoff, they were just talking about this last week. I saw a clip of it, and it was the whole thing that almost all of our churches have these events this time of year, but they're sort of events that lead to nowhere because we're not intentional at all about them. Like here they are in our orbit, and then they're out of our orbit just as fast. So the next step is get them into community with one another, not necessarily community with you. Get them into community with one another. What I mean, of course, you're going to be involved in that, but it's not about them joining something in the church. It's based on this. How do we get you guys talking to each other? So maybe we invite them back for hey, we're going to have a speaker talking about social media and when to allow your kids to get on there and what to watch out for, or something that's super relevant.
Never, Jason. Yeah. Never.
And then break them into small groups to talk during the thing. And then have them follow up with one another in the small groups. Get them into community. Have a plant in each group of someone from your church. Let that someone from your church be the group leader who emails them all. Hey, just wanted to follow up on the event. How do you think it went? And you could probably get somebody from your community already, a local principal or superintendent, who'd be willing to do it either for free or for low cost. And then it's getting them into engagement, into the life of the church. So, okay, we did these things. We'd love to invite you to. We're going to be doing an adult class, Sunday school class on this topic, or whatever. It's that those three steps: get in their orbit, get them into community, and then get them to engage in some sort of low risk but meaningful engagement in the life of the church. And so let's say you start doing that with young families, you kind of get them to that point. Then you could say, hey, we haven't had or we're just thinking about launching a new Sunday school program, and we want to reach out to you guys and just talk about how excited we are. We love to see you there, and are there any ideas on how we could really make it great for these kids? And so you're building the airplane in the air as you're getting the people in, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine to do.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you started with something though. You can't just open the doors of the church and expect them to walk through them. That there might have been a time in history where that happened. People moved into a community or whatever. And I would say, I don't know what the research is now, Jason, even as people are starting families, I do think people are coming around to church and they're going, I don't know how to teach these kids about God or whatever. So they're still showing up for that. But where you started was going to where they are and connecting with them and building those relationships and then working from that place. So I think it's a good approach and something that we are all capable of doing, which is great news, right? We don't need a huge budget to offer waters on the sideline of a soccer game.
100%. And again, personal invitation is the hands down all-time champion of church growth anyway.
Yep. Yeah.
It's always about personal invitation.
Mm-hmm.
It always beats everything else. So again, if we just start developing relationships in those 3 steps, it's going to give you a shot at engaging people. And again, taking the relational risk to do that is what makes you a healthy church, not the byproduct of getting more people.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right. So I also wanted to touch on the fact that there's only 3 weeks until Christmas. Yikes.
Here it comes.
A lot going on. And if you're going to attract visitors outside of the Bible Belt, this is the time you're going to do it. Mm-hmm. You are actually not going to do it on Easter as much as you will at Christmas. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about simplifying your approach. How do you create an on-ramp for people going into the new year?
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about all these things before. I'm going to point you to episode 365, which is the last time we talked about 5 steps to maximize Christmas. So those all go into more detail. So I'm not going to go into that level of detail here. I just want to, as a reminder, and we'll link to that on the show notes on our website. But think pathways, not programs. I already sort of touched on that. You want to make sure that the programs or events that you're offering in the next 3 weeks have a relationship with one another.
Yep.
They might each have a desired outcome, but you don't want it to compete, and you want to make sure that just through a couple of tweaks, you could turn them into steps. So the 2 big examples I have, for our younger crowd or our young families, we have our Christmas on the Hill event, and that's the big y'all come event. But when we're there, right before we do the tree lighting, we invite them to Christmas Eve family service where we have glow stick candle lighting. And we tell them when it is, and we have little flyers with our stuff on it. This year, we're also doing a day in Bethlehem, which is kind of this fun young family thing that we're doing. But we talk about it there. And then at Day of Bethlehem, we'll hit, again, the Christmas Eve services. And then at Christmas Eve, there's usually one announcement we have, and it's to do with engagement. So this year, it may just be look out for the new small group signups. There's so many great opportunities, and they're happening on the other side of the new year. If you have a resolution that you want to go closer to God, we got the answer for you, that kind of thing. But now we've taken these things that could have had nothing to do with each other, and we've turned them into steps.
Yeah.
And you could do that with, we do it with kind of our older crowd. We have our Veterans Day concert, which we just had. We lead them to the choir concert. We lead them to traditional Christmas Eve, candlelight Christmas Eve.
That's spot on.
Again, pathways, not programs.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I mean, and I imagine probably all of our churches that are tuning in, pastors, you have these things already. So you were saying just a few tweaks, really kind of on the tail end of those things, to invite them to what's next, or to point to what's next, or another opportunity is a pathway. Now you've created steps versus just something that happened that they enjoyed and then they went home and maybe we'll do it again next year. So, for our church, we have a handful of things this time of year. Some are internal and some are external. And we have our Christmas jazz on the first Sunday of December. So we have a whole bunch of people from our community come, and out of Christmas jazz, we point to our Christmas Campfire and Carols event, and then to Christmas Eve. And when people show up for Christmas Campfire and Carols, we point them to Christmas Eve. And so really everything is trying to get towards that celebration at Christmas Eve, and then into our January sermon series, or into an opportunity in January. So again, those are things that just having a minute of invitation at the end, or a card that you hand to them and say, hey, we'd love to see you again. Come check this out. And not everybody will come, but some will, and at least they'll know they're invited.
Yeah. Also, I want to point everyone to, I just thought of this, is we already have a guide with all this Christmas stuff in it. I forgot that we still had it.
That's right.
It's yeah. So it's reclaimleader.com/Christmas, and you can get the guide for free. So it's got all the stuff, including pictures and everything else. So so good. I could go faster. All right. Second one is if personal invitation is the reigning champ, how do you help the congregation reach out, assuming that they're not all comfortable reaching out or don't know how to do that? So we do little Christmas cards. Again, they're just generosity cards. Pay for someone's coffee, something as just a nice way of inviting, or get postcards that have all your service times. Let folks hand them out and invite their neighbors. Hey, we'd love to see you come. Or if you want to come with us, we're planning to go to this service. Don't know if you want to come and join us or something. Give them a reason to invite. Our folks tell us they look forward to those cards because it's very helpful.
Yeah, well, think about the difference between the hand something with information versus have to try to remember it all. And I just remember, I can't remember who we were talking to here on the podcast, but about leaders going first, that if you're going to tell your people to hand out invitations, you probably should be doing that. And just the conversation about maybe even going and doing a few of those handouts yourself to your neighbors, so that you can come back and say, hey, when I did this to and shared this with my neighbors, it was okay. Nobody should slam the door in my face, and everybody was gracious and kind of leading the way with that. So good ideas.
Yeah. 3, consider a giveaway. We always do an Advent devotional that we purchase and we give to anybody who wants it until while supplies last. It's funny how much that means to people. People really enjoy it, even our young adults. So we're doing a thing. We got this new young adults group. We've got about 15 young adults, and we're going to make sure they get like the first 15 of these because they were asking for them. And that's an area of ministry we're really trying to work on and prioritize. So, but it's just funny. All ages, they love getting the devotional for free. So
That's awesome.
Even if you had to charge a couple bucks, no big deal. But if you can give it away, that's even better. We use outreach.com, by the way. This year we bought it from Christianity Today. They did one that was really cool.
Nice.
4, find non-creepy ways to track your guests. Again, it's about a relationship with them. You're not hounding them or getting them to subscribe. Right? So you can do that. You get photos with Santa, your Connect cards, Sunday school check-ins, giving, all that stuff. Anyway, that's all on the guide that you can get for free.
Nice.
And then lastly, you know what I want to say about preaching, Jesse, at Christmas?
Put as many jalapenos as you can.
No jalapenos in the mac and cheese. Give them the story.
Yeah.
Give them the mac and cheese. I shoot for 10 to 15 minutes on Christmas Eve because the last thing I want to do is bore people to death. And I know there's a lot of folks out there will be like, you shouldn't. It's about Jesus, and you're right. But who says we can't also try to engage our folks as best we can with the gospel, not have them, they've already had Christmas dinner and kind of, I mean, there's just a physiological thing that happens.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for powerful, portable, inspiring, and the basics. I just want to make sure I tell the story.
Just give them the straight stuff, give them the good stuff, and don't get fancy. I like it.
Yeah. So I think this answered my question, Jesse, is let's come back to what are some markers of a flourishing or healthy church. Well, let's do that next time.
I think so. Yeah. That's really important because I think it will help us to frame what we mean by that a little bit more. Like, what are other ways to think about measuring health or understanding what healthy things look like, so that you can go, oh, yeah, there is some health right here. And maybe down the road that leads to some numerical growth or a larger budget. But man, that's a really cool indicator of some healthiness that's happening in our life. So I think we should get into that stuff.
Yeah. So before we close, just kind of, I was thinking about how does your church, Jesse, how do you help them think this way?
Mhm.
It's what we're building rather than
Yeah.
what we're growing. Maybe that's a little confusing way of asking it, but how do you get to the church health bit more than the church growth bit?
Hmm.
For us, I feel like it happens more when we need to accomplish something, like that big changing our worship times, which was,
Yep.
it's so annoying that was such a big deal,
Yeah.
but it was.
Mhm.
And but it was through that process we did together as a congregation that really set us up for a lot of wonderful things we're seeing this fall.
Mhm.
It's in those moments where I feel like we're really building and trying to be healthier and more faithful.
Yeah.
And the results, if it ends in growth, it feels good, but at the same time, it's like the real important thing is all the work in the building.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we started at the beginning of last episode of saying, uh, drawing a crowd is one thing, but taking that crowd and making it into a congregation of growing disciples is another thing. And really, that second thing is the goal, right?
Yeah.
How do you be a healthy, flourishing, dynamic community of people, a church, following Jesus together and growing as disciples and helping lives be transformed? And so that's, if that is kind of the picture of where you want to go, and that's what you're building toward, is what are the things that would do to bring that about, then you can trust the Lord with the growth part, right? The fruit part. And so I do think building, whatever language you want to use around that, working a process that leads to healthier things, or working on some systems that would lead to a more effective way of being a community together, or whatever you can do to build a healthy community, a healthy church, is going to lead to some really awesome, healthy outcomes, whatever those are, whether it's more numbers or deeper discipleship or better community outreach or whatever. So I like that. I think, having that bullseye at the middle, what is it that we want to do? We want to be a flourishing church that makes disciples of Jesus. So if we're going to do that, what do we need to build? How do we move in that direction? So
Yeah.
I love it. I think this is a really healthy, good conversation for us, and good reminders in here too about the Christmas season, how important this time of year is, if to reach our neighbors and that kind of thing. So hopefully all this helps.
Yeah, that's all that I care about. I just hope it's helpful, pastors in churches out there, that this maybe creates a little spark or an inspiration or just enough encouragement
Mhm.
to get to the building and let God deal with the growing. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. If you ever want to reach out to us, Jason or Jesse at reclaimleader.com. We say this every time at the end because we mean it. Ministry is hard, but it is so much better when we do it together. Take care, everyone.